Most people think Sagittarius are all the same: free-spirited, adventurous, lucky, always moving forward. But after decades of studying Sagittarius energy, I can tell you something most people never realize. 2. Sagittarius can be born under the same sign and live completely different lives. One feels restless no matter how far they travel. One is driven to build, achieve, and prove themselves at all costs. And one carries a strange kind of wisdom, as if they were born already knowing too much about life. The reason is not personality, it's not upbringing, and it's definitely not coincidence. It's your birthday. In 2026, this matters more than ever, because this is not just another year for Sagittarius. This is a dividing year, a year where Sagittarius paths separate, where some finally align with who they truly are, and others feel more lost than ever, even though nothing looks wrong on the surface. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people won't tell you. If you don't know which type of Sagittarius you are, you may spend your entire life fighting your own nature. You'll chase freedom when your soul was meant to build. You'll chase success when your soul was meant to wander. Or you'll shine for others while slowly burning out inside. Sagittarius is not one story. It is 3. 3 distinct paths, 3 different inner fires, 3 types of Sagittarius, all shaped by your birth date. And once you recognize which one you are, your past suddenly makes sense. Your choices, your frustrations, your patterns, even the moments where you felt like life was pushing you in a direction you didn't fully understand. This video is not here to label you. It's here to help you stop resisting who you were born to be. So before we go any further, take a moment. If you've ever felt different from other Sagittarius, if you've ever wondered why your life doesn't look like theirs, or why the same advice never quite worked for you, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which Sagittarius path you're walking in 2026 and why everything in your life has been leading you here. Type 1, Sagittarius, the first path, the one who was born to wander. If you were born between November 22nd and December 1st, this path may feel uncomfortably familiar. This is the Sagittarius who never fully settles, not because they are unstable, but because their soul was never designed to stay in one place for too long. From a young age, this Sagittarius feels a quiet pull towards something more understanding, more experience, more truth. And often they don't know where that pull is coming from. They may change environments often, change interests, change beliefs, sometimes even change entire versions of themselves. People around them might call this inconsistency, but that interpretation misses the deeper truth. This Sagittarius isn't running away. They're responding to an inner signal. Their life isn't about building permanence early, it's about gathering perspective. These Sagittarius are born explorers, not just of places, but of ideas, philosophies, and inner landscapes. They question what others accept. They test what others inherit. And they feel uncomfortable following paths that feel pre-written. This is why many of them experience long periods of solitude, not isolation solitude. Time alone doesn't drain them, it clarifies them. In silence, their mind expands. In distance, their intuition sharpens. In solitude, they remember who they are. This is the Sagittarius who feels most alive when learning something new, when stepping into the unknown, when moving toward answers that don't yet exist. But this path comes with its own challenge, because wandering without understanding your purpose can feel exhausting. Many type 1 Sagittarius reach a point where they ask themselves, why do I always feel like I'm searching but never arriving? And the answer is simple but uncomfortable. Arrival was never the goal. This Sagittarius was meant to experience many versions of life before committing to one. Their wisdom doesn't come from staying, it comes from seeing. However, when this Sagittarius tries to force themselves into stability too early, when they stay in situations that feel restrictive, their energy dims. They become restless, disconnected, quietly frustrated, not because something is wrong with them, but because they are out of alignment. In 2026, this becomes especially important. This year demands honesty from Type 1 Sagittarius. Honesty about where they feel trapped. Honesty about what they've outgrown. And honesty about the difference between comfort and fulfillment. The life lesson for this Sagittarius is not to settle, but to wander consciously. To explore with intention, not escape. To move forward without abandoning themselves. When they embrace this truth, something shifts. Their restlessness becomes direction. Their curiosity becomes wisdom. And their solitude becomes a source of power, not confusion. If you recognize yourself here, if you've always felt like life keeps pulling you forward before you fully understand why, comment if this part reflects your life experience, because the next Sagittarius path looks very different. This one doesn't wander to understand life. This one builds to prove something often without realizing who they're trying to prove it to. Type 2 Sagittarius, the second path. The one who was born to build and conquer. If you were born between December 2nd and December 11th, your Sagittarius fire moves in a very different direction. This is not the Sagittarius who wanders to understand life. This is the Sagittarius who feels an inner pressure to do something with their life. From early on, this Sagittarius carries a quiet but persistent drive, a sense that time matters, that potential must be used, that standing still is dangerous. They don't chase freedom for its own sake. They chase progress. Achievement feels natural to them, momentum feels necessary, and success often feels like proof that they are on the right path. This is the Sagittarius who sets goals instinctively, who pushes forward even when tired, who believes that effort will eventually create meaning. And for a long time it does. These Sagittarius often build impressive lives from the outside. Careers, projects, businesses, reputations. Others admire their discipline and resilience. They appear confident, capable, in control. But beneath that forward motion, there is a quieter tension. Because for many Type 2, Sagittarius achievement slowly becomes identity. They begin to measure their worth by what they produce, their value by how much they accomplish, their peace by how far ahead they are compared to others. Rest feels uncomfortable. Slowing down feels risky, and silence often feels louder than action. This is why burnout appears so often on this path. Not because Type 2 Sagittarius are weak, but because they are powerful without being fully aligned. At some point, many of them experience a strange moment of emptiness. They reach milestones they once dreamed of, yet the satisfaction fades quickly. They ask themselves questions they've been avoiding. Why doesn't this feel like enough? Why am I still restless even after succeeding? Who am I if I stop pushing? These questions are not signs of failure. They are signs of awakening. The life lesson for Type 2 Sagittarius is not to abandon ambition, but to understand its source. Because when ambition comes from fear, it never rests. And when it comes from alignment, it sustains. In 2026, this Sagittarius faces a crucial turning point. This year does not reward constant motion. It rewards intentional direction. If Type 2 Sagittarius continue chasing without listening, inward progress feels heavier. Resistance increases. Motivation drains. But when they pause even briefly, something changes. They begin to separate who they are from what they do. They rediscover purpose beneath pressure. And ambition transforms into leadership instead of exhaustion. This Sagittarius was born to build, but not to prove their worth, to create something meaningful, something aligned, something that reflects their deeper values, not just their drive. When they understand this, their fire stabilizes. They no longer run toward success. Success begins to meet them where they stand. If this feels uncomfortably accurate, if you've always felt driven, productive, and capable, yet rarely fully at peace, comment if this resonates with your inner experience. Because the final Sagittarius path carries a very different kind of fire, this one doesn't chase or wander. This one illuminates often without realizing the weight of the light they carry. Type 3, Sagittarius, the third path, the one who was born to illuminate. If you were born between December 12th and December 21st, your Sagittarius path carries a different kind of intensity. This is not the fire that wanders and not the fire that conquers. This is the fire that illuminates. From an early age, Type 3 Sagittarius often sense that they see life differently. They understand patterns before others notice them. They grasp emotional truths without needing long explanations. And they often feel older than their age, even when they are young. People are naturally drawn to them, not because they demand attention, but because their presence feels grounding, confident, and quietly powerful. This Sagittarius often becomes a source of guidance without trying to. Friends come to them for advice. Strangers open up to them unexpectedly, and in many situations they find themselves leading simply by being themselves. But this light comes with weight, because carrying insight also means carrying responsibility. Type 3, Sagittarius are deeply aware of their influence. They know their words matter. They know their choices affect others. And over time, this awareness can become heavy. They may feel pressure to always be strong, always composed, always wise. And when they struggle, they often do so in silence, not because they don't feel deeply, but because they don't want to burden others with what they carry. This is why solitude becomes essential on this path, not as an escape, but as a necessity. In quiet moments, Type 3 Sagittarius reconnect with themselves. They reflect, they recalibrate, they listen inward. It is in solitude that their wisdom sharpens instead of overwhelms them. Creativity often flows strongly on this path. Many Type 3 Sagittarius express themselves through writing, teaching, art, philosophy, or mentorship. They feel a natural urge to translate understanding into something others can access. Sharing insight is not optional for them. It is part of their design. But the greatest life lesson for this Sagittarius is balance. Because when they give too much without replenishing themselves, their light dims. In 2026, this becomes a defining year. This year asks Type 3 Sagittarius an important question. Are you shining from alignment or from obligation? When they honor their need for rest, reflection, and inner clarity, their influence becomes effortless. They don't push wisdom outward. People seek it naturally. They lead without force, teach without preaching, and inspire without draining themselves. Type 3 Sagittarius were not born to save others. They were born to remind others of truth, of perspective, of what really matters. When they embrace this role consciously, their presence alone becomes transformative. If you recognize yourself here, if you've always felt wise beyond your years, yet quietly tired of carrying so much understanding, comment if this feels like your inner world. Because now that you've seen all three Sagittarius paths, there is one final truth that ties them together. And this is where everything comes full circle, ending. Now you can see why Sagittarius is never just one story. 3 birth windows, 3 inner fires, 3 completely different ways of moving through life. One seeks understanding through movement and solitude. One builds and pushes forward through ambition and action. And one carries insight, illumination, and quiet leadership. None of these paths is better than the others. But each one demands honesty. Because struggle doesn't come from being Sagittarius. It comes from walking the wrong path for who you truly are. When a Sagittarius tries to settle too early, their spirit feels trapped. When a Sagittarius pushes without purpose, their fire burns them instead of guiding them. And when a Sagittarius carries wisdom without rest, their light slowly fades. 2026 is not asking you to change who you are. It's asking you to stop resisting it. This is the year where alignment matters more than effort, where clarity matters more than speed, and where understanding yourself becomes the greatest advantage you can have. Once you recognize your Sagittarius path, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop forcing outcomes, you stop comparing journeys, and you stop judging your past as confusion instead of preparation. Your experiences begin to make sense. Your instincts become clearer, and your decisions feel quieter but stronger. Sagittarius was never meant to live by imitation. This sign was born to move forward in truth, in freedom that fits, in purpose that feels natural instead of exhausting. And when you walk the path that matches your inner fire, life doesn't suddenly become easy, but it becomes honest. That is when progress stops feeling heavy. That is when solitude stops feeling empty. And that is when success stops feeling hollow. Before you leave, take a moment. Reflect on what you've heard. Not what you want to be, but what has been shaping you all along. Comment your birthday and which Sagittarius type you recognize yourself in. I read every comment, and your story may help someone else understand theirs. This journey doesn't end here. It begins with awareness. And in 2026, awareness is everything. If this video helped you understand yourself more clearly, then this channel is for you. I don't create content to tell you who to be. I create it to help you recognize who you already are. Here we explore Sagittarius not through surface traits, but through deeper patterns, life lessons, and inner alignment, especially during powerful years like 2026. If you want to continue this journey of self-understanding, clarity, and truth through Sagittarius wisdom, subscribe to the channel. The power of the Zodiac signs. New videos are shared for those who are ready to see themselves honestly and walk their path with intention.